This video is your guide on how to become a digital marketing analyst in the field of healthcare. And I've worked for 3 years and some change at a digital agency that specializes in healthcare organizations. I work as a digital marketing analyst, which is a subset of a data analyst that's kind of more focused on understanding various marketing tools and helping clients understand how to track, collect, clean, sanitize, transform data, and visualize data in beautiful dashboards so that leadership knows whether certain marketing initiatives are successful or not. So with that experience, and then plus 5 years at another performance marketing agency, I have some experience as to what it takes to work as a digital marketing analyst, either full-time or as a side hustle in the field of healthcare. Now, let me just break it down for you and help you out and help you understand what this industry is. Now, keep in mind, this is just my opinion and my experiences. Obviously, with other people, they're going to have different tips and opinions. So take what I have to say with a grain of salt, but this is just my thoughts. Hopefully, it'll be helpful. Now, in the field of healthcare, the question typically starts with, is it better to get your foot in the door in the industry first, even if it's not the job you want? Or is it better to get the job you want if it's not in the industry you want? Now, I defer to more credible sources in the book How Google Works, which I believe is written by the former CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt. He has a whole chapter dedicated to this. And the long story short of that chapter is it's better to get into the industry first and then figure out what job title you're in. Because, in his words, it's kind of like there's a rocket ship that's taking off to space. You could either get in the rocket ship before it's too late and it launches, or you can get on something else like a boat or something that's not going to be as big of a wave. And then they also use like a surfing analogy. Some waves are really big, some are smaller. You better get on the right wave first, and then you can figure out the rest. And that's basically saying like, okay, certain industries like tech are just going to be a lot more profitable, lucrative, hence why Silicon Valley's made so much money in the fields of apps, tech, software as a service, you name it. Now, obviously, you want to take everything said, even these Google people, with a grain of salt, but I think it is something to consider. Because on the flip side, I also noticed it is not easy to kind of transition roles, even if you're in the right industry. I think it's possible, but you can easily be pigeonholed as a role. So how do you avoid that? Let's say you get your foot in the door, you're in healthcare, which by the way is a very reliable recession-proof kind of industry, at least compared to other industries. You got your foot in the door in healthcare. How do you actually get out of it, or at least a step more towards the job you want? What if you're completely in the wrong department? Let's say you're doing accounting, or you're doing janitorial services, or you're doing just something completely unrelated to digital marketing, let alone data analytics in digital marketing. Well, that big of a leap will be tough, but I do think that with the right company culture, that will be a big proponent too. So if you jump back to that book, How Google Works, they said, what do you choose next after the industry? Is it the job title or the company? And funny enough, it's the company that comes next. Now, once again, you don't have to do it this way, but using that model, you have to realize that certain cultures of companies have more of a philosophy, a culture of letting people find their strengths and weaknesses and shift between companies. So if you're in the wrong company who is very rigid, it can be very hard, 10 times, 100 times as hard to shift roles, because they hired you for one thing. The CEOs, the founders are very rigid in their mindset, and that's all they want you to do. And if they want someone for that other role, oh no, they're not going to consider hiring or switching from within. They're going to hire without and outside of your company and try and find the best candidate. So you basically have no shots because of the way their mindset is. And some would say this is not the right approach. This is not effective CEO strategy. Some say it is. I'll leave that up to the experts of business. I think it is kind of a bit short-sighted, especially because considering the hiring cost of hiring outside when you're someone willing and able who wants to shift into a role. But point being, I've worked at companies where they just have much more of an open culture to that, and you're even told and voiced when you join that, hey, this is the type of company it is. If you ever have any dissatisfaction, you can voice that or express that interest. No guarantees, but we're very much open to people shifting roles. And they can even point to a few examples of current coworkers that have done so. That's a fantastic sign that you have chosen a company where it's possible. Versus a company that's very rigid, it's just going to be very difficult. So how do you kind of screen those companies? Well, obviously there's public sources, like you can look at glassdoor.com and look at the reviews of the company. But for such a specific question, you are better off also going to do informational interviews with coworkers, not coworkers, employees, current and former. The former one's a bit of a hack because less people are considering reaching out to people who used to work at the company you're aiming for, but now have moved on. These types of people are fantastic because they'll tell you the real juice. They'll spill the tea. If they didn't like the company, they're not beholden to hold back anymore. And so my favorite tool is LinkedIn. Maybe I'll do a video in the future about how I use the very specific strategy of LinkedIn direct messaging to reach out, get informational interviews. Part of it has to do with sending out a lot of friend requests and messages and researching and finding those companies. And then part of it has to do with crafting the right message and offer that they would be open to an informational interview. But I've definitely touched on it in other videos if you want to look at some of my job interview or LinkedIn kind of focused videos I've put out. But one of the big things that you want to keep in mind also is that with a strategy like LinkedIn, you're able to pinpoint people that you wouldn't have been able to any time in the past before the internet. For the first time in human history, you can use an advanced search filter on LinkedIn and find people because most people are on LinkedIn. Most corporate employees are on LinkedIn. So you can literally do a search, an advanced search, and then filter down to people who used to be former but not current employees of certain companies. And then you can filter down even further and find people who maybe went to the same school as you, so you have that alumni connection, or have other similar interests, hobbies, clubs that you can use as leverage when you're pitching them to get them to say yes for that interview. So these are the people who can tell you the real story, the real reality of what it's like to work at these companies. You can also tap your personal network. You may know someone who used to work or is working at this company, and just get an idea if this is really a dream company or a stepping stone company that could be valid to get you into healthcare. And then not just healthcare, but the role you want in healthcare one day. So for me, how did I do it? Well, I spent 5 years, as hinted at a performance marketing agency where we were more focused on delivering results, leads, sales to various clients across various industries, from roofing, contracting, law, to business to business, to software as a service, to tech, to higher education. And we would basically take all this information that we got from the data, and then we would compile it and use it to optimize our ad performance, improve our search engine optimization rankings. And so that is where I got my foot in the door. And while it was not maybe the ideal industries I wanted, I got a huge breadth, and it was one of those entry-level agency jobs that just gives you so much experience across so many different clients. Now with that skill set, which was pretty applicable, then I was able to apply and use that skill set to get into an agency that focused on healthcare. So you may be saying, well, you actually didn't take the approach you recommended. Rather than going first for healthcare, you actually got the skills first. And that's why I think, I wanted to point to the theory and advice that may have worked for, the people who run Google, and then I want to just point to what happened in real life. Synthesize this, triangulate this to see what works best for you. Had I gotten first into healthcare, it could have worked, but it would have been tough. I mean, and I definitely wouldn't have tried to aim too far away from the general group or division or department that I wanted to ultimately end up. For example, let's say I was aiming to just start off the bat out of college with an entry-level job at a healthcare organization. I would have tried to get something in the digital marketing or data analytics department, entry level, versus trying to get something in, let's say, the pharmacy department, janitorial department, accounting department. Because with these large established organizations, especially in healthcare, which, let's just be honest, they're not as open-minded as other industries like tech when it comes to shifting across departments that much, but it also depends on the health organization. You have to really work hard to shift those departments. It's not impossible, and when you do some of these informational interviews, you'll find examples of people who have done it, but it was not easy. So you'd have to try from that angle, and it's going to be a bit more difficult. I would gather that if I had gone first to try and get an entry-level healthcare org type of job in digital marketing, there would be a lot of competition, and it would have been very tough to get a job. So obviously you can apply for a few months and see if, maybe it's easier than I'm claiming. And then if you get in, great, now you're already set up perfectly to do that. You have that entry-level job, you're in healthcare, you're in the right department. Now you just got to finagle within that department from marketing to data analytics or vice versa. Or you may find that it is very difficult, in which case you could take the approach I mentioned, which is first, you build up a lot of introductory base level fundamental skills, regardless of the industry. An agency role versus in-house at one company can work better, in my opinion, because you just see so many different clients with different situations, and you get such a breadth of experience that just makes you so much more of a viable candidate who knows what to do. Another approach could be to do a side hustle. So rather than aim for a full-time job, what you can do is you can start to build out kind of like your own agency in a way, but really just kind of like a freelance part-time job where you're going to, sometimes pitch organizations, typically smaller ones, clients, and then go the freelancer route and then find ideas and find experience in the industries you want. And once again, there's similar pros and cons. Sometimes when you're just starting out, you don't have the luxury to be picky with what companies, what jobs are out there, what clients you can work with. So you may still not be getting all healthcare, but you will be getting some. And the beauty of a resume is that even if you have other industries that you've worked with, like roofing or plumbing, you can frame your resume to just highlight the stuff you want. So let's say you work with 2 healthcare clients and then a bunch of other random clients. Just highlight the 2 healthcare clients on your resume. That's what they like to see, and then boom, you're ahead of the crowd. If you want to include the other experience just to, flesh it out a bit more, you can do it, but just make it more condensed, more concise, maybe just 1 bullet point. And that's some of the stuff you can do to really stand out. And I really hope this helps you. I would love to do a part 2. If you have any questions or specific problems, leave it in the comments below, and I can see if I could do another video elaborating. But I really do think that healthcare is one of the most reliable industries to be in. Even if there's a recession or stock market crash or something, most people still care about their health beyond everything else. If they're dying or they're really sick, they're going to cough up the money to save themselves because their life is more important than most things else. Please leave a like and subscribe, and then join my free email newsletter where I offer many exclusive bonuses, including free coaching calls, free exclusive stories and tips, all geared towards helping you find your dream job or dream side hustle within the realm of becoming a digital marketing analyst.